Evicting a tenant can seem like a complicated process, but in this video, we'll explain the eviction laws in Wisconsin and outline some simple steps that landlords can take to initiate an eviction. In this video, we'll talk about what the eviction process looks like, how Wisconsin laws affect evictions, and how to legally remove a non-compliant tenant from a property. Be sure to watch to the end of this video to find a link to a fillable eviction notice, which you'll need to begin the eviction process. First, what is an eviction? Eviction is the process of legally removing a tenant from a rental property. It is illegal for a landlord to change locks on a property or physically remove a tenant from that property. This is true even if the tenant has failed to pay rent. If a tenant refuses to leave after violating the terms of a lease agreement, a landlord must seek an eviction from the court. Eviction is different from the simple termination of a lease. A landlord can opt not to renew a lease after the specified term has ended, and there's no need to involve a court in this process. If a tenant renting in Wisconsin breaches the terms and conditions of a lease, then the landlord is legally authorized to send the tenant an eviction notice, also known as a notice to quit. There are several versions of this, and each one applies to a different situation. First is the 5-day notice to quit. This gets used after a tenant who's been renting for less than a year violates their lease for the first time. Examples of violations include the failure to pay rent and involvement in unlawful activities. This tells the tenant to either fix the identified problem within 5 days or face eviction. If the violation has occurred twice within 12 months, then the landlord would have to use a different form called the 14-day notice to quit. This one tells the tenant to move out at the end of 14 days or face eviction. The 28-day notice to quit, on the other hand, can be used by either the landlord or the tenant to terminate a month-to-month lease. This notice tells the other party to prepare for the tenant to move out by the end of the 28 days. The 30-day notice to quit gets used to notify tenants who have been renting for more than a year of the first-time lease violation. This gives the tenant 30 days to resolve the matter or face eviction. A copy of the appropriate notice to quit should be served on the tenant. Per Wisconsin law, this should be done via certified mail. A return receipt should be requested in order to prove to the court that the notice was properly delivered to the tenant. If the tenant does not respond to the notice by resolving the situation or moving out, then the landlord may commence an eviction suit. This can be done through the filing of two forms, known as a complaint and a summons, at the small claims court in the county where the property is located. The complaint explains the nature of the lease violation, and the summons is a means by which the court sets a hearing date. An affidavit that determines whether the tenant is on active military duty is also required. Copies of the complaint and summons must be served on the tenant by the landlord or a process server at least 5 days before the hearing. This must be done in person. If several attempts to locate the tenant fail, then state law allows for the delivery of copies to other adults in the tenant's home. If this is not possible either, the server can leave a copy posted in an obvious place at the rental property. A form called an affidavit of service, which proves that the papers were properly served, must be signed by the server in the presence of a notary public and filed with the court. At this point, the tenant has a right to respond to the claims in the complaint by filing a form known as an answer and a counterclaim. If at the hearing the court rules in the landlord's favor, the landlord can request a writ of restitution. This is a document that authorizes the sheriff to remove the tenant and the tenant's possessions from the property within 10 days of receiving it. We've got everything you need to get eviction proceedings going in Wisconsin, from eviction notices to court documents, and you can access all of it at the link below. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button to find other important videos on legal topics that you can use in everyday life.